For decades, NATO has dominated the skies with some of the most advanced fighter aircraft ever built. The F-16 Fighting Falcon, the Eurofighter Typhoon, the F-35 Lightning II. These jets were supposed to guarantee absolute air superiority, but in the shadows of Europe, far from the spotlight of global defense giants, one country dared to build something different, something leaner, smarter, deadlier. That aircraft is the Swedish JAS-39 Gripen, a jet so underestimated, it became a silent nightmare NATO never expected. To understand the Gripen's impact, we must go back to the 1980s. At that time, Sweden faced a dilemma. It wasn't part of NATO. It wasn't backed by the Soviet Union. Surrounded by superpowers, Sweden needed to defend its skies alone. Building a massive, expensive fighter fleet like the US was impossible. Sweden's population and defense budget were simply too small, but instead of giving up, Swedish engineers asked one critical question. What if we build a fighter jet that can outsmart bigger enemies, instead of outspending them? And so the JAS-39 Gripen was born. The Gripen wasn't designed to be the loudest, or the fastest, or the most expensive. It was designed to be efficient, flexible, and deadly effective. Unlike most NATO fighters that require long, heavily protected runways, the Gripen was built for survival. It can take off and land on highways, frozen lakes, and short rural roads. This means even if enemy missiles destroy major air bases, Sweden's Gripens can still launch counterattacks from hidden locations. Even NATO generals admitted this concept was terrifying because it made Sweden's air force almost impossible to wipe out. But the Gripen isn't just a survivor, it's a hunter. With advanced fly-by-wire controls, super maneuverability, and state-of-the-art avionics, it rivals even the most expensive jets in aerial combat. And here's the real nightmare for NATO. The Gripen costs a fraction of what the F-35 or Typhoon costs. Yet it can carry advanced missiles like the Meteor Beyond Visual Range air-to-air missile, a weapon considered one of the deadliest in the world. Imagine a jet cheaper to buy, cheaper to maintain, but armed with weapons capable of striking NATO's best aircraft before they even know they're targeted. That's the kind of asymmetric advantage that keeps military planners awake at night. In military exercises, Gripens repeatedly stunned NATO allies. During war games, these jets demonstrated how a small fleet could outmaneuver larger forces, disappearing from radar, striking quickly, then retreating to hidden bases. At one point, reports leaked that Swedish Gripens managed to shoot down NATO aircraft in simulated battles, including advanced American jets. The exercises forced NATO to admit the Gripen wasn't just a budget aircraft. It was a nightmare scenario, a fighter NATO had underestimated. The more NATO studied the Gripen, the more uncomfortable the findings became. This was not just another regional defense aircraft. It was a system designed with a completely different philosophy. While American and European jets became larger, heavier, and more dependent on expensive infrastructure, the Gripen was moving in the opposite direction. It represented the idea of doing more with less, and in real combat scenarios, that could mean the difference between survival and defeat. One of the greatest strengths of the Gripen lies in its ability to operate with minimal support. Most modern fighters need dozens of technicians, specialized tools, and long preparation times before they can return to the air. The Gripen breaks that tradition. With just a handful of ground crew and a mobile maintenance truck, a Gripen can be refueled, rearmed, and launched again within minutes. This turnaround time is one of the shortest in the world, and it creates a terrifying image for potential opponents. A fleet of small, elusive jets that can vanish into forests, rearm on highways, and return to battle again and again, almost like ghosts of the sky. Cost is another nightmare for NATO. The F-35, for example, has become infamous for its staggering price tag. Buying, maintaining, and operating one F-35 costs nations hundreds of millions of dollars over its lifetime. But the Gripen can be purchased for less than half that price, and its operational costs are even lower. This allows smaller countries, nations that could never afford the prestige of an F-35 fleet, to suddenly field an advanced, fourth-plus generation fighter that can stand toe-to-toe with the best. For NATO, this levels the playing field in ways the alliance never intended. And then there is the matter of weapons. The Gripen is fully compatible with NATO standard armaments, but Sweden did not stop there. By arming it with the Meteor missile, they gave the Gripen one of the longest range and most reliable air-to-air weapons ever deployed. In a head-on engagement, this means a Gripen could detect and destroy enemy aircraft long before they even reach missile range. For NATO strategists, the math is chilling. A small squadron of Gripens could theoretically down waves of more expensive aircraft without taking a single loss. Exercises across Europe have revealed just how disruptive this aircraft can be. In simulated battles, Gripens have used their small radar cross-section, powerful electronic warfare systems, and Meteor missiles to strike before NATO pilots even realized they were under threat. Stories spread quickly among Allied air forces of Gripens, quietly dominating engagements where they were expected to be crushed. Suddenly, the budget-friendly Swedish jet was not just surviving against NATO's elite fighters, it was beating them. This revelation created an uncomfortable truth inside NATO. The very countries that dismissed the Gripen as a lightweight, low-cost compromise were now realizing that it exposed flaws in their own multi-billion-dollar programs. The F-35 may have stealth, but it cannot operate from a rural road in the middle of nowhere. The Eurofighter may have speed, but it cannot match the cost efficiency or turnaround times of the Gripen. And while the American F-16 has been a legendary workhorse, the Gripen represents a new generation that combines agility, adaptability, and affordability into one package. As smaller nations began to take notice, NATO's discomfort grew. Hungary, the Czech Republic, and others looked to the Gripen not just as an aircraft, but as a strategic equalizer. For these nations, the choice was simple. Why spend fortunes on aircraft that would bankrupt defense budgets when the Gripen offered modern capability at a fraction of the cost? Each Gripen exported was not just a sale. It was a quiet victory for Sweden's defense philosophy and a reminder to NATO that their monopoly on advanced fighter technology was slipping. Perhaps the most frightening development came with the next generation, the Gripen E. This upgraded version pushes the nightmare even further. With a more powerful engine, extended range, advanced sensors, and electronic warfare systems, the Gripen E is designed not just to survive modern combat, but to dominate it.